don't I don't usually do these very so close together, but today there's a disturbance in the force, so to speak. That disturbance is there are those who believe that they are going to control the House of Windsor. Freeze me out, use my brother and his stupid and his yeah, well, my stupid sister-in-law because they're controllable. They think they're going to be able to get there, be able to keep going on as normal, and just like, oh well, not my problems. Those people can die. Blah blah blah. The Republican fall as long as we get our money. That's not about to happen. Or if it is, the consequences are far greater than what most people are willing to accept. Last week, Trump, Ivanka, and Jared voluntarily testified in front of Congress. That wasn't a testifying. What that was a recon trip. And then we have Trump having an interview in the Washington Post, even though I haven't read it, just listening to it and seeing what the value and seeing what's been released. He's gloating. He views himself getting away with it. The interview, this, when he said this to historians, which is nothing. That was an admittance that he knows the election wasn't stolen. The election wasn't rigged. There was no split person when he said that. That was Trump, the superego, speaking. He is very well aware. The former president of the United States of America has changed the Republican Party into an authoritarian party. Meanwhile, which is aligned with Putin and China, and in some many ways, India, as well as Orban and Erdogan. These are theo-fascist states. That's why the right-wing theo-fascists love Orban. Undemocratic. Orban supposedly won. He did not win. There was not a free and fair election. That's why Trump always talks about being rigged. It's projection. He's telling you what he wants to do. And we're seeing it all throughout the country. Now, I may be wrong about something I'm about to say, but I'll get to that one later, actually. Putin is going to escalate and continue to escalate. He needs to draw the West in. He wants complete control over the gas. Plus, it's a bonus about the whole thing that Ukraine doesn't exist. Since they don't exist, I don't have to care. And two, he's committing war crimes, and it looks like he is pulling people into Russia a la the Chinese way. Or, if you want to, the old Nazi way, basically projecting again. Gotta love these guys. Accuse your enemy of what you're doing. The eventual goal of all of this is destroy democracy, but more importantly, destroy the United States. And you're like, and how are they doing that? Disassociation. The other day, I placed a post on my Facebook concerning Will Smith, and it was fairly long, written out about how Jada Pinkett Smith's behavior is absolutely horrid. Now, one dude who I had served with in Iceland, and who got married, I had already spoken about him before. He made a response, something about bad behavior, blah blah blah. But he knows better than argue with me like that. He knows I expect better arguments. What he was really saying is he was having a difficult time dealing with the fact that he had thought he had been beaten. He had beaten me, and to find out that he had not. That Bontrager, the dude who, the bigot who he had been following, had really screwed him over. He also screwed over this other dude named Brum. Brum ended up getting his PhD. Also, he can make himself feel smarter than me. But he's miserable. Bontrager did that to all of them. That's what toxic people do. That's why bigots. That's what bigots do. The racist. They get them saying, "Oh, you're supposed to be better than them," blah blah blah, as opposed to, "I've worked harder, I've done well." That's that. And me being a blue blood and ancient, it's freaking out a lot of European Americans, a lot of Caucasians, and they can't deal with it. So they're going to look towards my brother, who's been blackified, because he's controllable. He's a poor person, no matter how much he's worked. Because of the way he thinks, he is a poor person. He will never be able to ascend, or if he does, no, he won't be as long as he's with his wife, and he's not going to get rid. He cannot ascend. He will not illuminate. And they're using him right now. And if they do, they're using him to destroy the House of Windsor. I guarantee you, right, from what I'm sensing in the force, Miss Lady Middleton has started to become a royal pain in the ass, hasn't she, Lady Markle? She started to do her little, as Michelle Neves calls, the look. You'll be happy, and then she'll give you a look to try to shut that down. They've said, "Oh, we don't need this one. We can control that." Wrong. See, Ron LeGrand believes wrongly because Trump, because there's a lot of suddenly all of the that spirit of Trump has been raising its head both in Sky News in Australia and here at home and some other things. So they believe they have gotten in control. Ron LeGrand was supposed to send me that link to show that, okay, he's on board. He didn't. I knew that the day before because they want me to go to him, and yeah, that's not going to happen. Because he figures, well, Prince is already probably doing it, or if it is, if they're smart, they wouldn't have known. They wouldn't let him know that they're actually on the stream. Ron, you don't understand. This is very important. Oh, of course, McRaven, he's from my senses, 'cause I don't sense him as much here where I'm at, so I'm assuming he's down over there. He's constantly interfered. It is highly suggested the Admiralty and the Generality reel McRaven in, because all he wants, he sees the power. He sees that if he can become president, or he can get interfere, he can continue his bigotry. He his greed is all over the place. I can see his fingerprints in the all over the place. Always know my enemies. What is at stake is the world. Some are saying, well, World War III won't start. The House of Windsor falls. It will. Jared Kushner is playing the whole, just as the Jews who wouldn't listen to Jesus, as he was saying, hey, you need to chill out, or the temple's going to be ripped apart. Well, we're special. We're God's chosen, so fuck you guys. Okie dokie. Same thing right now is going on. See, there are many powers that be who, the the far right, the theocrats, who are bigots. Trump is their perfect avatar. A bigot, a poor person who has no scruples and no morals, no ethics, just like Mitch McConnell. That's why they're hammering against voting rights. That's why they don't want to invest in black African Americans. Or they say it's black African Americans, but really it's the working class. Continue to make America unequal, turn it into a cesspool like India that uses the idea of the Hindu caste system of reincarnation, as opposed to what the upper caste and they're really afraid of is, hey, maybe one of the untouchables, a true power soul, enters them, and they grow to the upper class, or an upper caste person humbles themselves and reincarnates as an untouchable. That would be terrifying, because it would mean that that everything they're saying is a lie, which they know is a lie. That's why Modi is so fervently working with Russia. Granted, smart countries you work with the two powers, whatever. But Modi is actively working with Russia. China is just waiting to see if Russia, where they can enter in. Russia has Europe over the barrel, quite literally. And if Russia controls Ukraine, then all of the majority of Europe's energy supplies will be controlled by a country that wants to destroy them. And I'm not talking about the Saudis, which they do as well. See, MBS, that's why the Wahhabis keep sending all those people. They keep dumping people into Europe, and which, yeah, if you're Muslim, whatever, eventually either return Christian or you'll do a regular, a Mecca one type of Islam. Because it's like you came from hell, and you're like, that Medina Islam sucks because I mean it's all about lying. Mecca one was truly enlightened. But the Wahhabis keep sending people to destroy Europe. And Trump and these theocrats are facilitating that because they want World War III because they think they're going to be raptured. They're going to disappear and be pure beings of light, even though they're nothing more than acting as the lower spirits themselves. Because if they were beings of light, they wouldn't be bigots. Trump wouldn't be their avatar. McConnell wouldn't be their avatar. No, understandably, there's no perfect person, but they are just pure greed. Which is the lower set. Just hatred and externalization of their own shame. See, they were trying to use my brother just the way that your Mansion was going to try to use Warnock. Remember when he said, I can deal with this nigger. This other one I can't deal with. Yeah, same shit, different pile. See, as my mother buried her true self and was replaced with the pheasantry of black African Americans who were never allowed to grow, in general, not particular, became a poor person of the worst sorts. Destroyed our family. See, there was one archetype within the family. We trust. She abused our trust. Dorma abused our trust. She's lucky to be alive. See, what Ron, what McRaven's not telling you is they're more afraid that I'll snap, that I'll turn around and I'll wipe out those gangbangers in LA. And they're probably sitting there going, nigga, who you think you is? You can't do that. Yeah, between her and Kathleen Kennedy, I have no qualms with their lives existing. You have no idea of what I know. And if you did, it would terrify you. Tier 1 are the praetors, the Praetorian Guard, the last line. That's why McRaven kept trying to make it look, oh no, he's not that. My boy, Hammett. No, they rejected Hammett. They might have had to deal with him because later on as an officer, but they rejected him as an entity because they know he's a piece of crap. And now I assume, pretty much sense, that Trump got a hold of between McRaven who wants to be president, sees the opening that he can become a dictator. Trump definitely wants to become a dictator. DeSantis sees the whole thing as well. They view the Democrats as an individual I was watching said that the Democrats tend to be right but always lose. And the Republicans always are wrong, but they tend to win. This can't have this anymore. The United States is about to fall because a bunch of European Americans can't get past their own bigotry. America is a secular country. It was designed as a secular country. It was designed as a democratic republic. Anyone who says that God and all that, it's a freaking liar. That's these theocrats trying to take over the country. And I guarantee you they got a hold of Ron LeGrand, and he's like, I don't have to send this thing to him. I've got everything under control. Well, let me explain something to you, Ron. This is the Game of Thrones. You represent the working class American, Caucasian American. And just like Confar isn't dealing very well with the fact that all the things he thought were not true, so are you. You signed up as a Marine. You say you defended the Constitution. Well, the Constitution's about to fall if the Republicans take over without getting their ass handed to them. They will turn this place into Orban Hungary. And if that's what you want, that's fine. I will stop you. Because I took my oath seriously. And still do. Nikki, you've watched Ron. You've been with Ron forever. You've watched him get played by frickin' Trump. You know he got played by Trump. You know he's getting played by Trump again. See, what is happening here is this. They believe, which is, she's seen it, this is not the first time. That's always my test. Who are you when you think I can't see you? Just like Kushner can't deal with the fact of my Jewish lineage, genetic lineage. Granted, I'm not Jewish and religious. Just like the Ashkenazi, they're flipping out, having a tough time dealing with everything. Because my lineage goes back to Moses, doesn't it? If not to Israel himself. And I'm not speaking of the children. I mean Israel himself. That's terrifying, isn't it? And you would say, oh, well, that's everybody. And then this is different. To the mystics, they understand what I am speaking about. To the Freemasons, my fellow mechanics, to the Templar Knights, and the Sufi dervishes, and the Zoroastrians. I am ancient. I did not choose this. I did not want this. I just wanted to go do my own thing. Everything I was doing specifically, just getting past the pain of the abuse of the person who's supposed to be a protector of you. But they just, whatever. my nickname, is a way to remind my mother, because my mother tried to kill me as an infant. Left me in Jamaica to die, and I survived. It wasn't for my paternal grandmother. Not much work, but still. My mother's very good at making her lies. And I would ask myself, why did I pick her? And then I realized it was because of Grandma Walker, my nanny. The woman, family friend, Grandma Walker would only pick very certain people. She chose who she would be a nanny to. And that was very particular to be one of Verona's kids. And I remember Kathy Bauman say, "Oh, she's a saint." I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. This is after she had passed. And I'm realizing now those weren't just passing words. See, Nikki, I know you're a good Jewish woman. You're a loyal person. But Ron's making decisions out of ego, super ego, and you know how stubborn he gets. But if he believes that he can just push me off and push it off to the side and think he's going to get the access to billions of dollars, he is sadly mistaken. We are the crown, and we will not allow Trump or anyone to think they can control the crown or the House of Windsor, because that's what's at stake. That's what's happening. That spirit that Trump represents. When he went over there, he was like, "Oh, look what I can get." His greed was so on display there. I mean, England, when the Queen invited him, she didn't invite him to be hobnobby. She needed to size him up because she had heard his voice before in another idiotic man. My voice is being heard around this world. This is the Game of Thrones. This is Israel. If America falls, if Britain falls, so falls Israel. And Kushner, in his ridiculous arrogance, is its harbinger. For you see, I'm going to explain to you something that is very terrifying if you let it soak through. Putin's going to continue to escalate as he's getting his ass handed to them. Right now, the Ukrainians need tanks and planes to fight off in the east. I suggest that Ukrainians start practicing in the east tank warfare, because they're using the vehicles and the javelins, high-speed maneuvers, and assume that maybe they might get the T-72s or the T-80s, or they may not. But use those armored cars in the exact same way they would use a tank in high-speed maneuver, open-field tank warfare. Only the bravest will be able to do this, because many will not come back. If Ukraine falls, so falls the West. Putin gets sketchy. He's going to try to draw China and India in. India is going to act all silly and try to play both sides. Modi thinks he's clever. World War III happens. China goes in. America has to go in. China's going to head down towards the Indo-Pacific region. They're going to work to maintain control of the Nine Dash Line, Indonesia, and then hit Australia. Same areas, and also just for goodness to pin us, they'll hit Taiwan and Japan. Saudis will sit there and try to make money off the oil, raise the prices, laughing their ass off. China gets desperate, Russia gets desperate, they launch a nuclear strike. At that point, we will flatten Riyadh, Mecca. We will salt the earth around Jerusalem. And we will wipe out 2/3 of the Han Chinese. We will hunt Modi down. And if he gets in his way, we'll flatten New Delhi. Moscow will be nothing. And you'll say, well, America, that's fine. We're aware of that. We will flatten this world before we will give in. See, true strength is restraint. Everyone's seeing Trump stomp around and act all tough. He's a fucking pussy. Anyone who's ever been in a fight knows that. So you see, Ron, these countries, what the situation is this. I, I represent two things. I represent the crown, and then I represent myself. Well, three things. And I represent America. Ukrainians are asking for a Marshall Plan. Europe keeps buying gas from Russia. Macron has to get through this election because they don't want prices to go up. That gives us enough time to fill out the gas, the LNG, and switch it over to us because but our energy sector has been notorious for destroying the environment. They want permits, the secondary permits to drill done quicker. Well, we can do that, but we need to make sure that you're not poisoning our water, that you're not leaving a wasteland out of your laziness. We want you to make money, but we want you to do it right. And then we also need you to transition to hydrogen and quit your fucking bullshit. And since we want these things, we're going to get these things. You're not going to destroy. You're going to cap the wells, take the methane, turn it into hydrogen carbon. Carbon turns into carbon fibers and graphene. Hydrogen then for use for fuel. We're going to make this happen. So you see, Ron, if you're thinking that you're going to use the House of Windsor because what sits on the cusp is billions of dollars. Where the crown goes, the British Army goes. the British Army goes usually is where is usually where Americans go when there's greed. As Americans go, the American army and military goes. Ukrainians are asking for a Marshall Plan. They have a Russia invaded the Ukraine because of the coal, the natural gas, and their ability to stranglehold the West. They put Orban in, and they're trying to put and they're trying to get a far right theo ultra nationalist in France. The third world does not want to deal with another bunch of false crapola where psychopaths come in and they find another bunch of psychopaths and they step on the persons who actually would build their countries. And where we as the crown are not going to allow you to destroy the crown. So I'm going to give you one more chance, Ron. I don't think you'll take it. I think your ego, your super ego is so much, it's so fucked up. I'll still swing by and, pay you whatever. Still learn the rest of the other products I haven't learned that I thought I needed to learn. But it shows why Trump fucked you over, and you're going to let him fuck you over again. And what's coming down is the destruction of the United States. Everyone wants to say that to be a man of history. It actually sucks most of the time. So I'm going to give you the option. You and Nikki. You can send that link, and I mean before 8 o'clock, not some late afternoon BS. And it's not that I need it, it is a statement. Because I'm not going to make you a billionaire. Because that's what's at stake. The world, the globe, billions upon billions of dollars. And I'm not going to allow you to go to have McRaven once again do the same damage that we did in the last century. Not just, and McRaven represents the bigots. I assume someone is going to come and have a little conversation with you. You're not going to like that conversation, but you're going to make a decision. I don't assume you'll make the positive decision. I think your greed and your arrogance will make that decision for you. Just like the rednecks can't deal with. Just expect to be better even when they're getting their ass handed to them. The spectacle that they did with Justice Jackson was ridiculous. Matt Gaetz, damn child predator, having the nerve who's never served. Yes, you're supposed to have oversight as a person in Congress, but to have the nerve, the way he spoke to that general, to the Secretary of Defense. He's lucky he wasn't in, because that general would have grabbed him by the throat and snatched his ass out of his boots. Or in his case, his little slippers. Fucking coward. People are dying for the freedoms we're about to give away. So now What Trump did not realize is now we know how he hides. Congress will hold Trump accountable. He will produce his ass to Congress to testify, both privately and publicly during the hearings. So will Mike Pence. So will Bannon, and so will Mark Meadows. Or they will sit their ass under the jail. Lawyers who are just, if you're a law student and you're just getting out of law school, you're going to get a lot, and you're a kick-ass lawyer, you're going to get a lot of, you'll be recruited. I am going to say, I'm going to ask you not to go, at least for the next 2 years. I'm going to ask you to get your law license, join the Department of Justice, prosecute all of these DOJ, all those insurrectionists who are trying to steal your country, our country. Make your networks, get your feet, cut your teeth, and the upside, it makes you more expensive when you get back, when you're done. So they want to catch you when you don't have any networks, and they can mold you. Because if you go in and we don't prosecute all those persons who Trump threw, that's the whole idea. Just cog up the works, slow everything down, let the little guy get to take all the crap while he gets away with leaving the country open. And then you have DeSantis and persons of his same ilk all salivating over open presidency. The Democrats thinking that, oh, well, there'll be a civil war. There's going to be a civil war anyways. We might not have it. Hopefully we won't. I'm assuming actually we won't. But if there's going to be a civil war, might as well make sure we do it. Have one, because that's what they're threatening. Oh, civil war, we're going to shoot. Okay. Then we're going to make sure it's under moral standings. That those who chose to start the Civil War started the Civil War for the fact that they wanted to overthrow their government and put in a king. So we're going to snatch Mike Pence, and the whole inner circle, and they're going to testify. And we're going to, DOJ wants to sit there and take forever. That's fine. They can sit underneath the freaking Capitol. And that's well within the rights of Congress. Then after we're done and it's found out that Trump knew, which he has already stated, we're then going to take the top 10 or 11, that includes Mitch McConnell and all those Republicans that did not, the ones who had participated in some format in the insurrection and or did not vote to hold the president accountable, which is it's the one thing they have. They cannot get it. You can do all kinds of crazy shit, but the one thing the Constitution does not allow is that you, as a representative, are to hold the president of the United States accountable. And by letting him get away with it, you did not, and knowingly did so. We will impeach you and remove you from Congress. And the Democrats are going to get a fucking backbone. Because if we do not stop this now, there will be no country. If we do not stop tyranny now, there may not be a globe. So, Ron, the weight of history is now on your side. Nikki, you represent the Jewish state, the Jewish people. Actually, all the Abrahamic faiths. Do I expect to see that link in my email? Do I expect you to do it? No, that would take courage. If there's one thing I've learned about people, moral courage is rare, especially when it's hard. It's easier to be physically courageous. History is now on your shoulders, Ron. I assume you'll be a mouse, not a man. And you'll say, "How dare you think I ain't gonna do shit, blah, blah, blah." Exactly. That's why I said it that way. See how easy it is? Rednecks aren't really that brilliant. That's why the big people in the big house fucked with you. Used your ego against it. That's why the bigots use the racist. But you will not. We will not allow you near the House of Windsor. And you're not going to use my brother. Lady Markle, since Lady Middleton is acting all up again and she's doing her thing like the look and she's acting all crazy, remember this. She has to externalize herself. So, first, two things you're going to speak to her mother, and then you're going to speak to her father. And they're going to speak to you because it's a matter of state. You represent the state. They're gonna sit down, have tea, and speak of how she was when she was about between 1 to 6 years old, because that's how old she really is. And you're gonna sit there with your nanny as well. I assume it's a good, proper British nanny, so she will understand. Now, the reason I was speaking about finishing school is so you know how to properly put her in her place. For you see, you will be the only woman who will be allowed to. Even when she becomes the queen, for she'll never be the crown. You are the only woman within the Commonwealth and the British Isle who'll be able to tell the Queen to go stick it up, well, where the sun doesn't shine. But after finishing school, you can say it in a much more polite manner. So the next time Lady Middleton throws a barb at you visually or does her little thing, take a deep breath. Stop and ask yourself, was I happy just a moment ago? Ah, yeah, you were. So she's trying to dump her negativity onto you, and you simply give it back to her. Give her back her negative emotion object. Oil and gas executives, find a way to replace Russian oil, while at the same time, yes, it's going to cost more. I don't care. They're going to pay anyways. Find a way to pump and get that to Europe and the world while maintaining the pristine water that we have here in the United States and without screwing up our land. In order to do that, you know you need multiple permits. You need to make sure that all of your set ducks in a row, that you're ready to go. And that way, if we know that you have to have those permits and that the permits are being slowed down, that way we can definitely say, hey, we're ready to go. We're stepping up to the plate. You'll open yourself to scrutiny by the EPA, because I assume you love this country too, not just the dollars it produces. You'll fund our shift to hydrogen and renewables. Think about hydrogen, we still make a lot of money. The carbon stays in the ground. It's a win-win. Or LNG, if we have tons of that, don't even have to pump the oil. Then when we're done with the LNG, then we can pull the hydrogen, so we have tons more left. Tons of money to be made. Then we can get off. If we have all that coal, we can switch it to hydrogen, which that freezes out China to play by our rules. And oh yeah, by the way, GM, that deal you did with SAIC, you need to tear that up. We're no longer giving away our intellectual property. And you're going to build, well, it is highly suggested you build that plant not in Mexico, here in the United States. They have stripped mined us from everything, from our intellectual property to our ability to produce hard goods. And dipshits are talking about free market, blah, 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 blah. I love the free market as much as anyone, but I damn sure don't want to live in a frickin' hellhole. And you're sending us to one. But then you get to say, well, it's just those black folks over there. No, it's you. It's those families who do not believe in secularism. It's the greedy fuckers who are like, we're talking about libertarianism. Libertarianism is nothing more than economic fascism. It's not to do with the free market. The free market must be regulated, have a floor. If we combine the best of the Reagan Revolution with the best of the time before the Reagan Revolution, to have a strong middle class. So we have markets, domestic markets, as well as foreign ones. And we truly maintain our freedom. And it's not freedom just to be an asshole without repercussions. If Ukraine falls, so falls the West. Slava Ukraine. Glory to democracy. And I'm leaving it up to you, Ron and Nikki. Will the flag forever wave? Or will Israel fall, as well as the United States.